Welcome to The Current by TreasureCoast.com, where we discuss interesting people, places, and happenings on Florida's Treasure Coast.
Well, Eula, thanks so much for being on. I appreciate you joining me. You've been representing the city of Stuart for a while now. Why don't you give an introduction to who you are and maybe what initially drove you to run for office?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Eula Clarke. I've been on the Stuart City Commission since 2011. I'm a local attorney and I'm also an urban planner. I have an urban planning degree, a master's in urban planning. You asked me what made me run for the City Commission. While I worked at the Board of County Commissioners since 1985 when I came here, I was always active with the City of Stuart. I've been active with the Arts Council. We started that back in 1988. I've been active with the LPA, the local planning agency. I was on that. And I've just been active in the community in my church, St. Monica's, and with the NAACP. And I wanted to just do something that would kind of be one step more to make a stamp on the community by helping with policies and try to guide some development in the city of Stuart where I lived. I've lived in Stuart since 1988. I came to Martin County in 1985, and I lived in the Port Salerno area before I moved to Stuart.
I appreciate that rundown. I'm interested to know, when you first ran for office, maybe even when you first moved to Martin County, how have the issues changed? Maybe from when you moved here or when you first wanted to run for office. How have the things that drove you to run for office then changed to what drives you today, if at all?
Okay, so there have been lots of changes. And a part of that is the reason why I came here was because of change in the very beginning. I came here when Martin County was about to be designated as a statistical metropolitan area. So they were getting there by the census numbers, and they had to plan for the next 20, 25, 30 years. And that was a requirement. And that planning was going to be done through the MPO, especially for transportation planning. And so what has changed? A lot has changed. We've seen growth, we've seen development and changes. And that has been the reason why I have wanted to stay involved. I left Martin County in 1993 and went to law school, and I came back, and there were the major things: transportation issues, the airport issues, and just seeing continuous change, not only in Martin County, but the impact of the surrounding region, like Port St. Lucie. When I came here, the population of Port St. Lucie was under 50,000, and now it's almost 300,000. And those people come to Martin County to go to the doctors, to go to work, to go to shopping, and all that. And they pass through Martin County. Some people don't want to go all the way out to I-95. For transportation planning, when I came here, one of the big issues with Martin County was that we didn't want to have I-95. We were the missing link in I-95. That has been built now, but it's 7 miles away out west. And people still drive through Martin County, US 1 as the main transportation corridor. So definitely we've seen those changes. We've seen growth again in St. Lucie County and Martin County on Hutchison Island. We've had a Publix on Hutchison Island. So I've watched those growth, and all that brings traffic through the city of Stuart, which is the county seat in Martin County.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's funny because I have this moniker that I tell people a lot where I remember when Becker Road was just a dirt road, and people laugh because it seems like
Yes.
it was yesterday, and now it's this major, major thoroughfare that I'm sure will see more traffic and more growth as years come. And I think that's an interesting point because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was how you feel the growth has gone specifically in the city of Stuart, but also obviously there are externalities, Martin County, Port St. Lucie, and what the city of Stuart can do to deal with those. I mean, how do you deal with things like traffic or more people wanting to go to shops and restaurants or home affordability? with that growth comes a lot of pressures that the city, I don't know, you would know more about this than me. How do you deal with things like that?
Well, a lot of that has to do with remain in a city and fostering the idea of being an urban area. And so that comes with, are we going to have sprawl? And we have a limited amount because our city is very small, compact, but then the county has development that goes beyond our city limits. But our city is trying to keep things very compact, to meet with the services that we provide, such as water and sewer. That also means allowing the development of multifamily, which we've had on our comprehensive plan. We've had those land uses. Most of those are built out now. So we've had more multifamily development, I'd say in the past 20 years, but we've always had multifamily in the city of Stuart. But that's one of the things about maintaining an urban feel, is that you have your people in a compact area in the city. That's what cities are all about. So we've had that. Some of that has not played well on people, but it also has created the scales of economy where you can at least get someplace affordable to live. And that is living in multifamily allows people to at least stay within the city. People who want single family, most of them have moved outside of the city and have gone to Port St. Lucie, where single family is more affordable there. So those are some of the changes that I've seen, is that the housing types, we've tried to create housing types and some affordability for those who want to stay in the city. And we're also trying to maintain a good stock of single family and to upgrade and redevelop infill areas that need to be redeveloped, whether they're small lots that we can accommodate single family on, or places where we can even have single family and have an accessory dwelling unit, or even have duplexes on properties so that people will still have a means to get to some affordability in their housing type.
Yeah, I appreciate you looking at that at a higher level, because I know there's a lot of um, hot button topics that I don't know people are always sure of how to deal with or what to think about. You know, me included. A lot of times people talk about apartments or single family home prices, and home affordability can be difficult to wrap your heads around. And I know ADUs is something people have been talking about, or um, other ways that might be able to somewhat solve the problem. And I guess tagging on to that, do you see any opportunities? I mean, it could be with housing affordability. It could be with other things that I know you're running on, things like, water quality obviously is important. Um, are there any
Yes.
opportunities that you see for improvement in any of these areas? Let's say over the next 4 years, 5 years.
Well, we have people who've said, well, what will the city do about housing affordability? And we don't build housing, we provide policies that provide predictability, to the best for our developers who may come in, or to single family homeowners who are going to build something, so that they at least can build and bring in plans that will be approved and they can build somewhat affordably. So we're working on that. The other thing is that when someone comes in, whether it's a developer who's trying to do something at a certain scale or level, and it's very hard. The last time we did a large development was a part of the Costco development, and that came in with a lot of controversy from people, both on the commercial side as well as the residential side. And their residential hasn't been built yet, but we don't have a lot of acreage to provide huge development or big multifamily or even single family subdivision. So when someone comes in and they're coming in with a plan, if it can meet their, I guess, economic requirements, to say we can build and we can also provide some amount of affordable housing in this development, Those are things that we look at, whether they're planned unit development or whether it's just one uh, single development where it may not have, a great many number of units, like over 50 units or so, but it could be a smaller thing. But those come in with developers who are saying we need to be able to build something that at least when we sell or rent, it becomes profitable. And sometimes those are very few and hard to find. And people have also complained that developers will say, we're going to build something, rent it for 14,000, 16,000, less than 2,000. And then when the development is built, the prices go up to 2,500 or more per
Right.
month. And so it is a very, very difficult thing to have that economy of scale where you're providing affordable housing, but you're also there's profitability for the person who's building the development.
Yeah, that's really interesting too to think about. Obviously, it has to make economical sense if someone's going to build anything, and tagging on to what you'd said, I think at the very beginning when you had talked about some of the characteristics of a city. How do you balance that economies of scale with wanting to be attractive to people who are gonna maybe build necessary improvements, commercial or residential or whatever a town might think it needs, with a place like Stuart with um, you know, the city of Stuart especially is such a historic space with a lot of charm and with a lot of I think it's a place that people have realized more and more over especially the last 5 years, 10 years, that it's just very different. It's very special. Obviously people disagree as far as like, hey, should we do this or should we do that? And so I'm interested to hear from your point of view, like how do you balance that? How do you keep that special, those special attributes while also trying to make sure that you're growing in the right way?
So balance is an absolute key issue. Balance for us as well as balance for homeowners, property owners. So the historic nature of Stewart, especially in our downtown area, where we've been working hard to preserve older homes, older buildings, and to share that with residents as well as those who visit our community, the charm of the community. So we've had people who have been very active in historic preservation, and we also have policies for historic preservation. Some communities have policies that are, I'd call them onerous, where it's very expensive to maintain a historic property and to keep it in the same manner that it was. And sometimes that's become very expensive for the property owner. We have property owners downtown who have, on their own, decided to maintain homes and keep them and upgrade them also, because a lot of things need upgrading. Electrical needs upgrading, uh, septic systems need upgrading, and to match with the city's new systems. And so that has come from the policies that we have for historic preservation, the relationship that we have with property owners as well as groups such as our historic preservation groups and the Stuart Heritage Museum and Stuart Heritage folks who are really interested in the heritage of our community, and they work hard to maintain those properties and, like I said, to share it with others, because that quaintness, it has value. It has value for those visiting. It has value for those who own the properties. And right now we just had the downtown area as well as the East Stuart area designated on the National Historic Register. And that will bring in more people to visit our community, as well as provide incentives, whether it's tax credit incentives for renovations. They can get technical assistance to do things if they're damaged during a hurricane. Being on the National Register also helps them to apply for certain types of funding. So that is so important for us to have that kind of opportunity and the recognition uh, in the nation. And I know that we've been considered, or downtown has been considered, uh, the best place to live several different times. We've won different award as most beautiful city. We've had our history with pineapple, with chrysanthemums in the community. And so all that history comes together to create that quaintness, the fishing industry, the history of presidents who've been here. We have Cleveland Edition, Cleveland Street, all about Grover Cleveland and others who visited Stuart. So quaintness, I'd say it pays, or it's important. It helps us to, and it helps us to keep a balance, to maintain that we don't go overboard with building things that are so modern that we lose that in our downtown area, especially. So we're going to be working more on that, and with that designation, we hope to maintain, especially in East Stuart area, that feel for a typical African American community when that community was created back in 1913, which is before the city of Stuart was incorporated in 1914. And East Stuart was there when that was a place where they could live. And that was a subdivision that was provided for them. A Little Dixie, Boggin subdivision, Lincoln Park subdivision. Those are historic subdivisions. And with this designation, we want to make sure that those historic subdivisions are kept and upgraded in a way that is historically and culturally significant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you're totally right. And it's interesting that you say that, where kind of the charm or character, or uh, it pays dividends. Like, that's an attribute of a lot of areas of Stuart, whether it's East Stuart, downtown Stuart. There's other little niches that you look at, and you can tell that it's special, and it's something that you can't put on a balance sheet when it comes to charm or character. And I appreciate you bringing those designations up. And obviously you're running for Group 5. Is there anything particularly in that East Stuart area that you think? I know there was news about Guy Davis Park and being renovated. I know there was talk about different zoning changes. I think maybe you can correct
Well,
me.
what happened is
Um,
that a lot of our work that we see on the street, whether it's in the downtown streets, whether it's the road diet that we did previously for Colorado Avenue, where
mhm.
we created that boulevard, created that streetscape, created that roundabout at Martin Luther King Boulevard, undergrounding in the downtown area. All of those things come from the funds that we have from the CRA, which is a special tax increment finance district that gets those funds, and those funds are accumulated. They're spent within that area. Parts of the East Stewart area is also in that CRA that has been extended to East Stewart. And so we hope to see some of those funds spent more and more in that area. Right now, we have funds that are going to be spent and have been spent to redevelop Guy Davis Park, and that is coming along. And we also have funds to spend to do Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That is going to be coming along, the redesign of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That has been planned, and the plans are going to be put in place soon as the road work starts to be done. So those are all CRA funds that will be used to get that done, and that's only available. The CRA funds are only available in this area, in the CRA area. And that's why we see that type of redevelopment that helps, I'd call it assisting the charm of downtown. Some of the things that we talk about, people don't realize that it's only because the CRA exists, only because those funds are collected, and then they are spent back in the community doing projects, whether they're mural projects, whether they're, like I said, the undergrounding, whether they're sidewalk projects. all those things that add to the charm of downtown is planned and created and funded through the CRA.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing to bring up too, because I actually was talking to somebody just a day or two ago about Rio and the CRA plans going on there, and different things that they feel can improve. And I believe there was some stuff going on in kind of the Salerno area fairly recently. Um, I wonder, and maybe this is just off topic, but it came into my head when it comes to things like CRAs, or are there other things that you think people should keep in mind? I mean, obviously we have an election coming up. Candidates are coming are putting their hat in the ring. You have for a long time now. Are there things, whether it's about the elections coming up, whether it's about the city government in general, because you've been sitting commissioner for a while now, are there things that people misunderstand about city government that maybe more people should know, or that you hear about a misunderstanding fairly frequently?
I think one of the big misunderstanding is that government should provide, or city government should provide affordable housing. And like I said, we don't build affordable housing. We create policies that developers and homeowners who are building would be able to build, hopefully build affordably without having to go through a lot of hoops. We've created some new policies in the East Stuart area where there are some things that persons could have done by right, and now they have to go through what is called a conditional use approval in order to get certain things done, especially when it comes to developing commercial beside residential. And so those things, some people might think that it's hindering, and some people may think that it's helping. So we're always again in that system where we're balancing um, everything that is done. That's one misunderstanding with regard to government should make things more affordable. Um, Another issue is that people are never ever satisfied with how we respond, whether it's our police or fire or other things, whether their water system, their septic system, how we how much water stays on the road after a large rainfall or a hurricane. So those kind of things again goes with our staffing, our ability to have the funds to do certain things very quickly. People want us to have more police, more fire. Again, the more we have, there's going to be costs associated with it. And when we have things like, if we do have the property tax, we're going to have to decide and work on, are we going to have to do more with less or less with more? There's not going to be any more, because you're talking about possibly maybe for the city of Stuart at least $2 million in less in property tax that we would be able to get, and we'd have to meet that budget shortfall. So um, it takes a lot of balancing, but the other thing is that it also takes a lot of work and listening and having citizens talk to us, not just at city council meeting, but in our offices, to our staff, so that we understand better what it is that they need, and that we can work on that in the background and present plans uh, in at public meetings whenever we get to a point where we can say, well, this has been thought about for this corridor or for this issue that has happened, and let us have a meeting or discussion about it. But I think that things just don't happen overnight, and people need to understand that and give us an opportunity to listen to them individually as well as in the public at city council meetings, so that we can continue to work on their issues. But I think one of the main issues that I've seen nowadays is the idea that we need to provide affordable housing, And what we, like I said, what we can do is provide policies that would make it, um, I guess, efficient to create housing that would hopefully be affordable based on what the economy and the market the market is asking at this time.
Thanks for that clarification. I know what you mean when you say a lot of times people. I don't envy your position. I know for a lot of people, I have a lot of respect for anybody who wants to come and serve the community, really at any level, because a lot of times you're being pushed and pulled in many different directions. You're being judged by both directions, and sometimes even a win might not feel like it. So I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you serving the community. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you think that's important to say? And will you tell people where they can find you, your website, socials? They might be able to learn more about you and what you have going on.
So they can learn more about me on my website, eulaclarke.com. And the main things that we're on the river. We're on the St. Lucie River. We've had so many issues with the river. We've hired an environmental attorney to help us with issues with the river, to study and see what's going on in our community. That is a part of our quaintness. That's a part of our charm, whether using the river to be on, or to fish in the river, or to just look at the view along the river. That's important. So that's a part of my platform, having responsible growth, sustainable growth, and managing what we have. Because, like I said, the city of Stuart doesn't have a lot of acreage to develop in the future. We're pretty much built out at this point. So when we're doing redevelopment, making sure that we're balancing and that we're doing, some people call it smart growth, but we're making sure that neighbors are not being, there's nothing offensive going on between neighbors when we approve development. And we just have to listen to neighbors and be cognizant of that when somebody comes in with a plan. Like I said, whether it's new or redevelopment, that's important. The other thing that I think is important is just making sure that we do all that we can to keep our carbon footprint as small as possible, whether it's recycling, whether it's the amount of water we use, conservation. Those things assist us in making our city a great place to live, work, and play.
I appreciate you with those final thoughts, and Commissioner Clarke, thanks again for serving the community, and thanks for talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Current by TreasureCoast.com. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Follow us on social media or visit TreasureCoast.com for local events, tips, and news. Have a guest or topic you'd love to hear on the show? Let us know at TreasureCoast.com. Until next time, keep